Shalom, shalom, Israel. First and foremost, I want to give all honor, glory, and praise unto YAHAWAH, Ba'Hashem, YAHAWASHI, Ba'Hashem, Rakwakadash, double honors to the elders and apostles of the great millstone, and shalom to my Akim Wakwafim who are diligently waiting to be delivered from this foul captivity, and are also part of the diaspora, which could look like other nations but are actually Israelites. And today's lesson, Romans chapter 16, verse 18, where they that are such, actually Slakia, I messed up, let me start over. Verse 17 first, now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause divisions and offenses contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them, for they that are such serve not our Lord Yahawadah HaMashiach, but their own belly, and by good words and fair speeches deceive the hearts of the simple. So basically the thing is that there are going to be people that are going to say certain things that say, oh, this doesn't seem fair, oh, this is not how things work, or this is not how you really want to serve a God that does this, that, and the third X, Y, and Z and stuff like that. And you know, the funny thing about that is that they take it from a perspective of trying to demonize Yahweh. Well, Slaki, it doesn't always have to be like that, but basically it's just a general sense of trying to attack either, if not Yahweh, they try to attack just in general let's just say Israelite doctrine, or the fact that we are Israelites, basically. And you know, there are many different ways that they do that. One of the key examples, which I actually heard when I was discussing this with someone, was how they would say, you really think that, again, Slakia, this is the perspective that they were trying to take, was dismissing the Bible and more so going off of pathos with it, which is basically an appeal to emotions. So basically what they said was, you really think that the Lord's going to just ignore all these people before the flood, or the Lord's going to just make these people and then not care about their about them and stuff like that. Like, that's basically what the dude was saying that I was speaking to. And I'll show you one other thing. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I will show you one of the stuff that just kind of dismisses the not necessarily dismisses, but addresses it. Okay, so Romans chapter 9 verse 21, have not the potter power over the clay of the same lump, to make one vessel unto honor and another unto dishonor. And that's basically the thing, where the Lord is the potter and we are basically the clay. The Lord made us for us to be a certain way, and made us to be a certain way, and some of us are made for glory and some of us are made for not glory. All right, so that's basically the answer to that. And that's how the Lord basically oftentimes shows stuff, but at the same time, people, they don't care about the logic, not even necessarily just logic, but the evidence. Okay, regardless of if you are able to rationalize it or are able to understand it yourself, the simple fact of the matter is that the Lord Yahweh, He made something a certain way, and it doesn't matter for you to understand. All that matters is that if you claim to believe in the Lord as you do, as be it a Christian, be it an Israelite, be it whatever, all right, you are still going to accept whatever thing that you see is in the scriptures, rather than trying to go against it. But yet you have people like the person whom I did not name, but I spoke of that basically they don't care about that. They want to serve the Lord in their own way, or serve their own version of the Lord that is not in accordance to what the scriptures say. All right. As a result of that, yes, this is where you have this stuff of people serving their own belly. all right, rather than not serving Yahweh Hashem Yahawashi, all right. And that would be an example of it, where someone they just can't, even if you show them, oh, the scripture says otherwise, they don't care, because they just want to follow after what they believe. Now moving on, Matthew chapter 19 verse 17, and he said unto them, why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is Yahweh. But if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments. And I want to read this. I read this to go back into Romans 16 and 18, because this is actually like the full crux of what I am trying to explain and convey, because there can be a plethora of different people, of different types of people that are going against the scriptures. There can be someone that might say, oh, you're such a good person, or you're such a good this, or someone that might, quote unquote, have good intentions, quote unquote, but in actuality, the fact of the matter is that their good intentions, it means nothing in the grand scheme of things, simply because if it's not what the Lord set, or if it's not what the Lord wants, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that it is that most people would say it's good. For an example of this is like feeding the homeless. Okay, people might say, "Ow." People might say, "You feeding the homeless. That's an objectively good thing. You should always feed the homeless. You should always give money to the poor and X, Y, and Z." When in actuality, no, that's not something that's objectively good, especially in the eyes of the Lord, because you have to, you have to understand that how is it that someone becomes homeless in the first place? Okay, and again, this is something that people don't really seem to really think, or they just see someone that's poor or homeless and they just say, okay, well, I feel pity on them. I wouldn't want to have that happen to me, and that's not to say, that's not to say, oh, okay, well, as a result of that, you go and terrorize someone. No, it's just a matter of, you have to understand, like, okay, so someone is homeless. Okay, why are they in that position? What led to that happening? Okay, maybe they were doing something wrong. Maybe they were wronged. All right, and the fact of the matter is that nothing ever happens if actually, let's get that first instead. I think it's Isaiah. I could be wrong. Amos chapter 3 verse 6. Shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city, and the Lord hath not done it? Alright, so basically you have over here where whenever judgment happens, okay, like someone getting killed or something like that, whatever, that's a direct result of the judgment of the Lord happening. So when someone is going through certain things, okay, which there's lots of different things that constantly happen, all right, that's judgment from the Lord. And the thing is, I'm not going to get it because I don't feel like getting it, but basically if you look at the I believe it's Judges chapter 14, in compared to the story with Lot and his family when he left, those were similar cases of evil about to happen to two separate people. But the thing is that the Lord protected one of those group, which is Lot's group, whereas the other group, only someone had to pay. The Lord did not protect that one person, and they suffered the consequences as a result of it. And let me just try to find it right quick so I know where. The story of Lot leaving Sodom and Gomorrah, and then I want to see Judges chapter, I think it's, I'm pretty sure it's chapter 14. No, it's not. Fuck. Let me think. It was Levite, I think. Levite. Let's see. Bear with me one moment. I just need to find this. I have to find this. Okay, Judges 19, Slakia, that's what it is. It's Judges 19. All right, Judges 19. If you want to read it, go. A good read. Interesting, so you can see the parallel. But anyway, continuing on. And then the story of Lot is in Genesis something. I don't remember. But just so you know, both stories are there. You can literally Google the story of Lot, and then you know the entirety of Judges chapter 19. That's the story on this Levite. Same story, a similar story, different ending. Okay. Anyway, basically continuing on, as I was saying, with the whole doing good thing. Again, people try to paint stuff out, and we're going back to Romans chapter 16 verse 18. It says, "And by good words and fair speeches deceive the hearts of the simple." Where again, like this is something that's commonly used, where people say, "Oh well, making appeals to emotions," where that just might not be the best thing to do, because okay, there's flaws with it, or there's something wrong with it. There's something that you just cannot accept, because that's not what the Lord set up in place. All right, and the Lord set certain things to be a certain way, and for people to go against that, okay, it's against the natural order. It's against what's supposed to be right. All right, what's supposed to be right is just obeying the Lord. All right, let's just get that. Let's hear the whole the conclusion of the whole matter. In Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 13, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Yahweh and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. All right, so that's the thing, where our whole duty is to fear Yahweh and keep his commandments. That's our only thing. Everything else is secondary to that. All right, which again, that doesn't mean that you can have your own hobbies or do whatever you want. Let's actually get that. Everything is lawful. It doesn't mean you can't have your own hobbies. Okay. 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 12. All things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought down under the power of any. Like, for example, you're allowed to play video games, but that doesn't mean that the video games are expedient. All right. This is the thing that you have to have self-control over, and not let it take over your duties to YAHAWASHI. All right. But yes, continuing on, as I've said before, there is so many people that think, okay, well, I'm just going to keep on doing what I want to do, when in actuality, you're going against the Lord, regardless of what your intentions are, because the Lord did not say, oh, you have to love everyone or do all this stuff. All right. The Lord gives us examples, and even tells us, whom he hates. Okay. He hates certain people. All right. Which I'm not going to get it, but there are videos. I literally made a lesson on it. People that I think it's called "People That the Lord Hates" and stuff like that. You can search it up on my channel. But anyway, continuing on, Proverbs 26 verse 25. When he speaketh fair, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. And this is the thing where, regardless of if people want to accept that or not, this is how the hearts of people that go against Yahawashi are. And also 7 is not literally 7. It's a complete number of things, or it could be 1, it could be 100, it could be 1,000, whatnot, where people might say, okay, well, I want to do this, or I believe in God loving everyone, but in actuality, there's still that perverseness that the Lord did not set up in place, that where people might be just abusing their power, or abusing something, or just going against what the Lord set up. All right, so you're not supposed to just accept things at face value, which is why it even says in Romans 16 and 18, once again, but but their own belly, and by good words and fair speeches deceive the hearts of the simple. That's the thing, where people are easily deceived by these simple words. Okay, Matthew chapter 16 verse 24. Then said Yahawadah unto his disciples, if any man come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Basically, deny yourself from your own lust. Deny yourself from, oh, I want to do this, or I want to do that, I want to believe in this, I want to believe in that. Okay, but again, you have to be able to deny what you want the Lord to represent, what you want the Lord to be. All right. Okay, because that's another thing which what, I'm gonna watch my mouth and stop while I'm ahead. But basically, just there are certain people that try to, for example, like the image of Yahawashi being a so-called white man. That's been something that people just can't get over. They accept that as a fact, and they just want that to be the thing. They just want to accept that as the norm, when in actuality that's not true. All right, they're perverting the image of Yahawashi, and as well by extension perverting the message and what Yahawashi actually is. All right, because that's not Yahawashi. All right, continuing on, Romans 1 verse 16. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Mashiach, for it is the power of Yahawah unto salvation to everyone that believeth, to the Jews first, and also to the Greek. Okay, where you can't be ashamed of what Yahawashi preached, what Yahawashi is. Okay, where again, that's another thing that's a part of the society where people, they have a hard time preaching, they have a hard time teaching, because it's not socially acceptable to say or to believe in certain things. Okay, so, and again, like, you have to be able to, you can't be ashamed of that type of stuff, because that is being able to accept the hatred of the world for the love of Yahawadah, of Yahawashi. That is where you're going to be receiving salvation. That's where you're going to be receiving the favor of the Lord, rather than trying to seek that temporary favor from people or from men, which it's not even worth it. All right, it's never worth it. All right. Second Ezra chapter 7 verse 55, and that the faces of them which have used abstinence shall shine above the stars, whereas our faces shall be blacker than darkness. All right, that's another thing about it, where practicing abstinence, as which abstinence is, well, let me just Google, show you the definition of it, because I think people have just one idea of what it means, when it actually has a general meaning rather than just one. Okay, the definition of abstinence: the fact or practicing of restraining oneself from indulging in something, typically alcohol. All right, so yeah, that's basically the thing. Well, it doesn't have to be alcohol. It can be anything else. It could be something more general. All right, like for example, what's it called? Gaming. Okay, for example, staying away from playing games for a while or something like that. I always say gaming because gaming is not in the scriptures, and gaming is not in the scriptures, obviously. So there's no verse that says thou shalt not play video games or whatever like that. So that's just the best thing to go to that. So if you have an issue with something, like most of your time is taken up by something like that, it's good to kind of just take a step back and not participate or not practice doing that or not do anything like that, in order to focus more on your relationship with Yahawadah. And this bit my tongue. Slakia, I just bit my tongue. Basically, take yourself away from that in order to practice, in order to focus on YAHAWASHI. That's another thing, which is, fasting as well. Fasting, you basically, well, generally, okay, because you can do, you basically abstain from eating food for a period of time, and basically you're showing self-control, because the food may or may not be there, but rather than eating it and enjoying it just because it's there, you take a step back and say, okay, I know I need this, but I'm just gonna hold back. I'm just not going to eat this, and I'm just going to focus on something else. I'm just gonna stay away from certain things for a period of time, right? And that's, again, practicing abstinence, which demonstrates self-control. All right, so yeah, that's basically it. I wanted to bring that out, because people might say that, yeah, I want to do this or I want to do that, but in actuality, are they actually doing this because it is the right thing to do, or is it, or are they doing it because, oh, I want this to be acceptable because it's not acceptable in the eyes of the Lord, but I'm going to bend the rules so that this is okay for YAHAWASHI, when in actuality it is not. So with that, I pray this was edifying. I want to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahawashi, Ba'ashem, Rakwak Wadash, double honors to the elders and apostles, great millstone, Abad Ball, and Shalom.